Here we are.
Here we are.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, guys. Hopefully you're doing great. We had some snow here.
We did.
For those of you who are in the Portland surrounding area, you probably got a little dusting of half-inch of snow, which we always call like the snowpocalypse of whatever year it is.
Yeah, unless we get something in February, this might be it.
I hope we get something in February because I do love to have a bit of snow.
Yeah, me too.
So, I'm Jenny.
I'm Paul.
And we are with Vango Artist Bar and Studio in Portland, Oregon, and this is our subsidiary company, the Go Box.
Yep.
For all of you subscribers, and if you're just discovering us on YouTube, it's a monthly subscription box where you get 2 projects a month, and it's $35 a month, and we just do 2 unique projects. One painted by him, one painted by me, and we teach you.
We end up getting a lot of diversity that way.
We do, yeah.
I guess my paintings aren't that diverse. I kind of stay down the same path. You kind of tend to bounce around a little bit more, but oh well, it is what it is.
That's me, Flighty Jenny.
Yeah.
No, I like to paint a lot of animals. So, and thank you for those of you who filled out our feedback survey. That was really helpful.
Yep.
So now we know, a lot of you like painting the animals, which I love teaching. So I think that's pretty cool, and I'll think of some others. I also like doing certain types of insects, like moths and bees and things like that. So maybe we'll work some of that in as we go along.
That's what.
So let's show what we're teaching tonight.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about it.
You want me to zoom in?
Yeah, let's do that. So this is New Year Rising. I'm gonna zip this up here real quick. Oh God, I'm gonna get my phone out of the way. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, we don't want to see your text messages.
We got my Machismo Mouse mug.
Yeah, Machismo Mouse. For those of you Portlanders, you might remember it. Well,
yeah.
Paul's bosses at his other job are the
current owners
of the rights to Machismo Mouse.
Yeah. So
they always want to reopen
enough
it.
Enough of that. So this painting's actually got some elements to it that are similar to last month's painting, mostly just in the sky. We definitely have different colors, but one of the things I'm trying to I try to do when I develop the paintings is I try to take elements from one month and pull it into the next month and keep building on those skills that we're working on. And what we've been really trying to incorporate in the last couple of months in particular is working on some great dynamic contrast. So we get that in this painting. This painting really relies on the contrast more than anything to be what it is. It could almost be black and white.
Yeah.
And it would work. So just to give you a quick rundown of what we're going to do, we're going to start with our background and work our way forward just like we do with all of our landscapes. On this particular painting, it's really choppy and uneven, so there's no need to do a lot of blending. It's really a lot of blotches, and we're going to get a little bit of work on some kind of mid-ground fir trees. And for some reason, whenever I paint, all of my trees kind of lean this way just a little bit. So maybe I'll work on not...
I never noticed it, and now that you
now
said
that I pointed it out,
I'm going to notice it.
Everybody's going to notice it. So with all that said, I think maybe we should start off with a toast.
Let's toast
to some snow and a new year and a lot of new things on the horizon coming up.
Okay, cheers. You'll have to explain to me what those are.
Well, we've got new government. We've got...
We need to not bring politics.
No, but we do have, that's a new thing on the horizon, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
We do have new vaccine coming out. I'm hearing some positive things about the numbers going down well. So, there's just a lot of things to look forward to in 2021.
Hopefully reopening our Portland studio. That would be awesome.
But anyway, so let's go ahead and get started.
So if you have the box, you get the instruction sheets there.
Yep, and I don't know how many of you actually use the instruction sheet and the tutorial.
I think the pictures are nice.
It is nice. Can I have the pictures?
To reference where you should be, like, rather than just on the video. But I know you teach us.
Well, except for, we both kind of bounce all over the place.
Yeah.
So if you just want to have, like, kind of a step-by-step guideline, it's a good... This is actually not very many steps.
No.
So this painting is actually, I think, pretty simple.
Yep.
It looks complicated.
I can tell based on the short amount of steps.
Yeah, it looks like it's maybe pretty complicated, but if we break all the steps down into manageable pieces, it's kind of like dicing up a meal for a kid, then we're good to go. So let's talk about our colors. Let's talk about our color scheme. Navy, navy, navy. Oh, sorry. That was my old high school colors thing. So we got our daffodil yellow. We have our sapphire blue, ruby red. We didn't get fancy. We just called it black and white.
Yeah, we don't use a lot of black in this painting.
No, actually, I don't think we use black in this painting at all.
I think I gave you probably way more blue than you'll actually use.
Yeah. So most of the time, Jenny, about what size do you like? About a dime-sized dollop?
Dime or nickel, a dollop of paint. You can always add more if needed.
Yep.
Because your bottles here last you 3 months, and then we send a bonus color once in a while. Next month you guys get metallic gold. That's pretty fun.
All right, so the first thing we're always going to do, we're always going to rinse our brush. Even if we did a really good job clean. Wow, Jenny. Jenny just threw her brush right into the middle of her palette. Even if you did a good job cleaning your brush last time, they tend to dry a little bit crispy. And it's good to just kind of give it a quick little refresh, wipe off the extra, blah, 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 blah. And what we're going to start off with is we're going to start off with this kind of pale peachy color. Now, you could go a little bit more towards the yellow or pink, whichever is your preference. I think this one would be really cool, leaning a little bit more towards the pinkish side. So it's up to you. But what we're going to do is I'm going to start off with some white. Doesn't take very much. I like to mix little batches and keep mixing as I going. To get some nice, just natural variation. So I started with a little white, little tiny bit of yellow. I'm going to add just a touch of, a little bit of red. Now I'm just going to add a touch of yellow to warm it up a bit. We end up getting kind of in the coral tones with this. And I'm starting out a little lighter than I did in the original. Maybe a little bit more red. There we go. So basically what we're going to start off doing is anytime we're painting a landscape that has a sky reflected in water, we're going to try to do both elements at the same time, but a lot of times what we do is we change our brush stroke direction to really kind of separate the two. So I'm going to start pretty much, our horizon line is just a little bit below halfway on the canvas. I'm just going to start really quickly and kind of messy. I think too often we try to be a little bit too precise with this.
Oh, you're very messy.
Yeah, and that's good. And I'm holding my brush so that the brush is horizontal. I've got enough paint on the brush that it's laying down enough paint without seeing canvas through, but not so heavy that it's just a big thick slather. While that's a little bit wet, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of white and just kind of brush into this middle area, kind of lighten it up. Now, if you feel like, mine's pretty pink, so I might just take a little tiny bit of yellow just right onto the canvas, just brush it in.
So this is that kind of squashed oval shape.
Yeah, this is just kind of a squashed oval. Leave it a little lighter in the middle. And this can be as big as you want. You don't have to, a lot of times people try to restrict it to the size they see on the finished painting. And it's better to go much larger because we can paint over.
And as you add the darker colors around, it kind of tightens it all up and it gradually disappears anyway.
Yep, exactly. So it's always better to paint further than you think you need to. I'm going to mix up a little, ooh, that's really bright red. Bright coral.
What are you doing there?
That's okay, I'm not going to worry about it. If you lose your white in the middle here, that's okay, because we'll come back and kind of re-add it with a little bit more chunkiness. Alright, that's good enough. Now what I want to do, add a little bit more yellow up here, just a bit. There we go. I don't want to get too far away from the path that we laid out on the instructions. Alright, so now what I want to do is we're just going to basically mirror that into the water area, which is going to be, if our horizon line is just below center, it's going to be just about like in here. Now you can be a lot smoother with this, which means you can spend a little bit more time. Those of you who like to smooth and blend, go for it right now. This is your chance.
Since water sits relatively calm and flat.
Yeah.
At least in what it looks like you have like a lake going on here.
Yep, exactly.
Any spot in particular, or did you just come up with it?
No, I don't know. Might have been a dream I had one day.
It looks like a spot in Oregon.
It could be.
You know what? It could be Frog Lake.
It could be.
Maybe. You need Mount Hood way over in the left corner.
So don't ever be, anytime you're working on these, don't ever be intimidated by painting it much larger, these beginning steps, than you think you need. There's a couple of reasons why it's okay. Is the main thing is when we start brushing in our other colors to create our clouds. I mean, I have to put a little bit more yellow in here because I've got some up in the sky. When we start brushing in our clouds, this creates a nice base that will kind of shine through a bit. So warm those clouds up. So there you go. I think that's a good messy start.
It looks like one of those psychology tests where you
Yeah.
fold the. I can't remember what that. There's a name, and I always forget the name.
Is it Braxton Briggs or whatever?
That sounds like.
I don't know. I'm totally wrong on that, but
Isn't that false labor contractions?
that's
Just
Braxton
kidding.
Hicks.
I was just joking.
All right. So you can see, hey, that's it. That's how we start. It starts
Yours
messy.
is a lot redder than mine.
Yeah, but I'm also going to paint over a lot of it, and I'll probably soften it up when we come back in. So a lot of my paintings, one of the tricks to my paintings that I think our teachers are learning, and you're learning, and everybody is, it's all about layering. All about layering and just building up the depth, building up the highlights, building up the shadows, all those things. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to mix some color. And really we could just use this existing little bit of color we've got started here. I'm going to add just a little bit of blue to it. Add a little bit more red. And I want this to really sit in the dusty lavender kind of color. Maybe a touch more blue. You're going to have to use your own eyes on this. Especially since I can't look at your painting and say, you know, you should add this. You can, if you want to tone it down, make it a little dustier, add just a touch of yellow. Oh, went way red.
Isn't that funny? You add something opposite the color wheel.
Yeah. So what Jenny just was saying is, when we're mixing colors, if we want something to be less intense, all we have to do is look at a color wheel, and which we should sell those on the website. I think
Yeah.
we've talked about that before.
Yeah, they're available through Princeton.
Yeah, so we can get them.
Mm-hmm.
But you look across the color wheel and you look at the color that's opposite of the color you've got. So in the case of purple, which is between red and blue, on a color wheel, yellow would be over here. So you kind of like purple would be here, go yellow. And what it does is it tones it down. It takes its intensity away. So I'm just going to take this color. Yeah, I think that's about good. And I'm just going to start brushing in and around, and that actually is a little bit too pinkish, so I'm just going to add a little bit more blue to my mix. And it's okay to let this overlap. Now when we start let me rephrase that. When we start talking about cloud shapes, when you look out across a horizon, the farther towards the closer to the horizon the cloud is, the flatter the bottom is, and the more it kind of builds up in general. There are other types of clouds, obviously, but as far as when we're painting, the best way to just really kind of give people this is clouds is to just kind of do this. But I don't really want you thinking about clouds too much, because I don't want this to become... If I pull the original out here, and I'm gonna pull a Jenny trick and hold it up. There we go.
Look at that texture.
Yeah, there's not really specific cloud shapes. There's just kind of suggestions. So don't get too focused in on painting clouds. Just get this going in here. You can even blend it a little bit across the top. Let me check anybody sending messages. No messages, so must be doing all right.
Yeah, feel free to introduce yourself if you want. I'll try and remember to watch the monitor here.
Now, at first, when we first start doing this, it's going to feel maybe too pastel compared to if you look at the finished painting, and that's okay. at this point, being a little bit more on the pastel side allows these colors to kind of jive together a little bit better.
And I assume you're probably going to go back and soften up the lighter color in the center, like
No.
you do a lot of times. No? Okay.
Not too much. If you look at the finish, there's not a lot of softness to it.
There's softness where the dark meets the light. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah. And what you can do for that is even just right now, take some of that color you're kind of bringing in and you can kind of just drag it softly over the edges so that they kind of... I think what you're talking about is like this area right here where I'm kind of harsh with it. You need to be more purple! That's me being harsh with it. And at first, like I said, it's going to feel more pastel. We're going to build this color up.
I have really bad lighting.
That seat, we need to bring in a light from the other side because that seat sucks.
Yeah, it's just the glare when it's playing on the
I think
desk.
it's our forward light just bounces right into your eyes when you're trying to paint. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mix up a little bit more of our color. And in this, I'm just going to really quickly brush in. Because what we're going to do here is I want to get all of this painting, all of this canvas covered. Colored. All right, covered in paint.
You all right there?
I'm good. It's been a long day.
You spent a lot of day watching snow out the window.
No, I didn't.
Here, earlier, you
I also
did.
drove all over the metropolitan area
Yeah, you did.
and did a bunch of work. And
You did that as well. You had an early day today, though. You were finished pretty early with your...
but I was
Work.
Southeast Portland to Milwaukee to Lake Oswego to Beaverton.
I didn't know you were in Southeast today.
Yeah,
Would you
well,
would have had you stop by the studio.
I wasn't that close to it.
Oh.
I was out off of Morrison.
Oh.
So this little area right through here, don't get too fussy about it. Actually, none of it should we ever get fussy about. It's always just a developing process, and it's like raising a kid. It goes through
A puppy.
stages. I was gonna say a puppy, but puppy or
what we're
kid,
doing right now.
it goes through stages, and sometimes you just kind of got to pick your battles and let some things slide here and there.
I think we let a lot of stuff slide with our kids. Far too much.
All right, stay with me. Stay with me on the storyline here.
I shall try. Okay, so we're just bringing the same color down below.
Yep, and you can tighten it up so I can see that my lighter part of the sky is... Oh, we got a couple questions.
Oh.
Or comments.
Snowy in Colorado too. Lucky. You guys probably have quite a lot more. We have a 1/2 inch dusting, and it looked really pretty for a while. Now it's kind of sludgy.
And
But
I think that's the only snow we've had this winter so far.
as we were leaving to come here from our house, it was funny. We pulled out of our street, and there's a couple teenage boys carrying a snowboard down the street. And I was like, "Oh, those poor guys! They're like dying for snow, and they get a 1/2 inch dusting. I'm like, let's get the snowboard out."
All right, so back to what I was saying real quick. I tightened this light area up on the upper part, so I'm going to also tighten it up down below.
Okay.
Yeah, there was part of me as a parent who was watching those boys walk down the street with their snowboards going, oh.
You know, if they just took it up to the schoolyard, which is right up the road, and
That's
has a
true.
big, huge grassy hill, it'd be fine. But if they were using that snowboard anywhere else, it's like toast. It ruined it. But I doubt it. I bet they were up at the school. It's got that
Probably.
huge hill.
Yeah, I hope so. For their parents having to pay for new snowboards today. All right.
I thought it was kind of cute.
It was.
You know, they could have been getting into a lot more trouble. Nice little snowboard session is great.
Yeah. All right. So that's good for now. I'm gonna keep building our dark elements in this painting. So before we get too carried away with that, though, let's go ahead and switch to our medium-sized brush. Medium. I'm not gonna rinse it. I'm just gonna. A lot of times, you guys, what you can do is, if your brush is nice and clean and it's crispy, but you don't want to.
Ooh, you're flicking water on me.
From what?
I don't know.
I don't even. Okay. But maybe you don't want to contaminate it in your rinse water. What I like to do is you kind of take it and just swirl it on my hand before I've rinsed it. That'll get it nice and softened up and broken loose. I'm going to take a little bit of white paint. Excuse me. A little bit of white paint here, just pure white. And I really want to make this area through here pop. So rather than, one of the things I like to tell people is when we're doing something like this, rather than thinking about brushing the paint on and smoothing it out, I'm thinking of just letting the paint just slide off the brush and rest on top of the other paint. And that's how we kind of keep from pushing down too hard, and we can kind of get some nice chunkiness. Just like so. And if that's too bright, it's too bright. We can touch it up later, but I think it's going to be all right. I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to kind of throw some smudges into the water down below. Oh yeah, that's going to be fine because I'm going to put those trees in, and that'll kind of work some magic there. You can always, if it's still wet, you can always wipe your brush off and kind of smudge out a little bit if you want to, but don't get too carried away. Leave some of this chunkiness. We want that to be choppy and uneven and bold. I'm just going to smudge in some of this color down in the foreground. A lot of times when... I'm just going to give away a trade secret, Jenny.
Ooh, careful.
Ooh. A lot of times when you look at our finished paintings, they are paintings that we painted once, and it was kind of developed as we went. And so like one of the spots, I'm going to rinse my brush because I'm kind of done with that pure white. One of the spots where I really see it on this painting is this light area in the foreground. I can tell that I painted that towards the end of the painting instead of at the beginning because it's kind of got a little bit of a dirtiness to it. You see it?
A little muddy.
Yeah, a little bit muddy. And sometimes that's okay, but I think on like this one where to me, I like the purity of the color and the contrast that's up here. Down here it gets a little bit lost. And I think I had the same thing in that last month, but it's just because we're developing and then I go back later and put the darker color in. And what we're doing in this painting as we're working on it is we're starting lighter and we're working our way darker, which kind of eliminates that muddiness. So what we're going to do from this point forward, like I feel like this is a little too square here, but we're going to fix that up as we go. But what we're going to do is we're just going to start working our way gradually darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker. And in this painting, like I said, we really don't even use black. We might throw a touch in, but I don't think we need to. So I'm going to keep using this medium-sized brush. So let's give it a rinse. A little rinsey rinse. My wife is rolling her eyes.
I wasn't. I was looking out to see if it was doing anything outside. But I can't see it all.
That wasn't what keyed me in. It was the... All right.
Did I do that?
You totally did.
Must come naturally.
I'm going to take a little bit of red and blue And I'm just going to mix up a darker, add just a touch of white. I just want to make sure that this is darker than what we've already worked with.
It's like it's on the bluer side, eh?
A little bit on the bluer side, yeah. Because what we want to do is we want to tone down the warmth that we've kind of got going right now.
What if we like the warmth?
If you like the warmth, fine, roll with it. I mean, that's the beauty. There's no grade that I'm giving out about whether you perfectly copied what I did or not.
Thank God.
What?
Well, I have a really hard time copying your
yeah.
style. You know that.
Yeah. So I'm going to start up in the top corner.
Just like you have a really hard time painting the owls.
It's true, especially when there's Posca markers involved. I almost had a meltdown during that session.
Did you?
I felt like it. I felt it coming. It was there. So basically what I'm doing is we're just going to work on streaking color.
We're going streaking.
Old school. And start filling it in up in this corner. I like to darken the corners up.
Question.
Yes.
Are these suggestions of clouds then?
They are suggestions of textural elements in the sky.
So clouds.
Yeah. I like to darken up the top corners. It helps draw the eye towards the middle. We'll probably darken this up even more as we go. Again, add more depth via layering.
You know, this painting has a very, it's really pretty. And if you left those trees out, it could have a very ominous feel. Like you could put like Mount Doom and the Eye of Sauron.
I see where you're going. I think Jenny's building up how she's going to sabotage the class tonight.
I told you earlier that I was like, I'm going to wreck the painting. When we were having a little...
You mean when you were mocking me and I called you out for mocking me? And you're like, that's it, I'm going to ruin the painting tonight. I'm like, all right, I got this little glare going so you can see I'm just building this up. And
I told you the other night I wanted to do, remember when I did the lighthouse with the... Dan Dowdy suggested was it the Death Star blowing up the lighthouse? So I did that, and I thought, the other day I was like, I think I'm going to do something like that again.
Yeah. All right, so we're just kind of continuing. If you need to lighten, if it feels like it's getting too intense in some spots, you can always add a little bit of white to your mix. I got a little bit too much white there, but just kind of soften it up.
You got a little glare going.
Yeah, I noticed that. Let me see if this helps if I do this. No, I don't.
I think the paint just has to dry, honestly, because the light being there. It's the same color as what's on the right.
Well, I can tilt it a little bit like that, and you can see. If you feel like this is taking too long with this brush, you can always switch to a larger brush. You know, you and I talked about this on one of the broadcasts before, is we get the question all the time, which brush should I be using?
And how much paint?
Well, no, we talked specifically about how we've both gotten in the habit of just saying whichever one feels best to you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really the right answer.
When Eric and I make the instructions, we even mention that on there. Use either the large or medium brush, whichever one feels right.
All right, so I'm going to take a little bit more of the same color. We're going to use this color. So basically, like from this point forward, we're going to be mixing like a basic color and using it kind of all across the canvas, and then a new basic color. And we're just going to keep gradually getting a little darker. So right now, I'm going to actually add just a touch of white because I want it to be a little bit lighter than what we just used. But right across here, are you watching, Jenny? I'm going to create a little, kind of like a little hill line.
Okay.
It's going to kind of go across about, let's call it 2/3 of the way across the canvas. And you can use this medium-sized brush, or you can use a little bit smaller brush if you want to. What we're going to create is some basic little tree shapes in the background, and we're going to use kind of our heart rate monitor technique we've used, where we just kind of scribble. Now these we don't need to worry about reflecting. We're using just the same color that we just put across here. Resist the urge to get very big with these. The other urge that comes in is the desire to put branches on them. We don't want to put branches on these ones. They're too far away. If we put branches on, we increase the level of detail that we need to do in the foreground. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. In this one, I'll just call it unnecessary. How's that? And really all I'm doing is I'm just using the tip of the brush. I'm just not pushing down very hard, but I'm really just kind of scribbling up and down.
And you're using the smallest brush? I'm
using the smallest brush just because if you had like a number 8 flat, that would work really good for this.
Use the skinny edge.
Use the skinny edge. We've kind of switched over to using mostly round brushes.
I tried to
mix it up a bit.
Yeah, like the video I taught the other day, the Cascade Wildflowers. I used the set that has the flat brushes.
Well, maybe I should use a flat brush real quick to show.
I can grab you one.
Yeah, I put everything in that jar right there.
Yes, I know.
Oh, perfect. So this is a nice little, was this a number 8 flat?
And a lot of you guys have this brush.
Yeah. So this comes from our, what is this? The value set, the 4-piece.
It's Real Value by Princeton.
Yeah, the 4-piece set.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you can do the same thing. I just turn the brush so that the bristles are basically vertical and just using the tip of the brush. And actually, in a lot of ways, this can give you more precise little bits than even the smaller brush that I was using before. I really like these Real Value brushes. These are new to us.
I really like them a lot too. I have absolutely zero complaints about them. They're very, very nice brushes for the money. I've used brushes that are way more expensive and not nearly as good.
So something you want to watch out for while you're doing these trees is creating patterns. So if you find yourself creating a pattern, do something to break it up. And I'll show you a pattern. I'll just kind of create a little pattern right here. Kind of just did 3 trees that are all exactly the same. All you really need to do is just maybe take one of them, make it a little taller. Put a couple of medium-sized trees just to break it up. Again, resist that urge to put branches on. I know the urge is there. And I'm going to go maybe a little bit further to the left. And I'm doing exactly what I always do when I teach. Everything's a little bit bolder and more intense. I think I've just gotten in the habit of doing that so people can see it better. Yeah, maybe it's not. Not too bad. You could take the time and go all the way across if you want to. If you're just learning kind of like how to develop your painting and composition and stuff like that, maybe that's not a bad idea to do that.
Start with the ones that are going to be covered up.
Yeah, work your way towards the middle. But the main reason I say that might not be a bad idea is what it does is a lot of times people will do like a little stand like this and then they start painting the trees in the foreground and then they've got like, they haven't given themselves enough room for this to, like they come up to an awkward spot where they got to figure out how to fill it. So it's always better to go a lot further than you think you need to go.
Your paint canvas right now looks like it has a scary teeth smile right through the middle of it. Totally. It's a Muppet. Creeper. I'm
Now-
totally doing patterns. Like, it's so
It just happens.
natural.
Just happens. So the other thing you can do, like if you wanted to, is you could add just a little tiny bit of white to this, and if you wanted to, I got too much white. That happens. If you wanted to, no, I got way too much white. Let's get this going again here. And then finish what I was saying. If you want to suggest some reflection into the water, you can. I don't know that you really need to, but you can if you want
It's
to.
pretty soft right through that middle area, it looks like.
Yeah, because when we
Yeah,
come
sure.
through with our other stuff, it's going to be a little bit bolder.
I think, if I remember correctly, looking at your pictures and you wrote your instructions and I kind of cross-checked everything, I think you added these background trees in later, like as a... If I remember...
I think I did it. I'm looking at the instructions.
Yeah,
so I
I
did it
think
all
that
at once.
you... Okay. For some reason I thought you added them later.
It's possible.
Like
That happens. I mean, that's...
Like last night, I was going over your new pictures for the next month, and I was like, okay, so this suddenly appeared, and you didn't explain how to get there.
Right. It happens. Happens to the best of us. Now let's get back to where we were going.
All right.
So that same color we just used up in the sky, and for these trees, you mix a little bit more of it. You okay there?
Yeah, I'm gonna peek outside. For some reason my neck hurts today, but
Jenny's been battling some back problems and having personally battled back problems.
I threw my back out vacuuming, which totally sucks because it makes me feel so much my age. It's like,
Well, what I was...
how'd you get a back injury? Did you go snowboarding?
Yes.
No, I was vacuuming.
So what I was going to say, though, is having battled back problems myself, pretty nearly debilitating at times.
Yes, definitely for you. There have been some bad ones.
Yeah, I think I spent 6 months of 1 year laying
Yep.
on my stomach. But it definitely can tie into your neck and everything. So I'm taking that same color that we used up in the sky. It's maybe not exactly the same, just as long as it's darker. We'll just keep adding darkening elements. Just gonna smudge some of this into my water. Just keep it rolling. So everything's just sitting on top of what's underneath it. We're not trying to blend things in, because really, the truth is, once acrylic paint is dry, you can't blend it. Sometimes when you use watercolor, you can bring some water in, and you might get a little bit of blending opportunity, but
You usually can with watercolor.
yeah, but not with acrylics. Once they dry, they dry.
And if you're using watercolor, if you ever use India ink, once it's dried, you
Yeah.
are committed.
It's done.
It's pretty cool in a lot of regards, but that is one of the things. It's like, oh crap, I didn't want that there. Well, I'm locked into it now. It's like a tattoo. It's always gonna be there.
So one of the things you'll notice is, as I'm painting on this, you actually don't even, a lot of times when I'm painting, depending on where I'm on the canvas, you almost don't even see my hand, because I'm holding the brush so far back. And I think that's a good habit to get into when you're doing something like this, which is more impressionistic, because a lot of times when we hold the brush like this, it makes us want to draw.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to kind of take that instinct away. I'm not telling you that you can't hold the brush down lower, but it definitely makes you want to draw. In fact, if you look at how I'm holding the brush right now,
Mm-hmm.
it's not being held like I'm writing like a pencil. I've seen a lot of people hold pencils like this. Maybe this, I don't know.
The way they teach kids now is very different than the way we learned.
Yeah, and if I'm painting on an easel, I hold the brush like this a lot. So if you're painting on an easel, I highly recommend it. And the way I say it's like you point the brush straight up at the ceiling, you reach your hand out like you're going to shake hands with somebody, and you just put it in, and then you're good to go. And I like that technique if I'm painting on an easel or painting on a flat table, which makes that technique almost impossible. But I really like that grip for painting. I think it's a more organic feeling.
Mm-hmm. You know, when Monet was older, he had arthritis, and he would have his assistants strap his paintbrush to his.
That's true.
And he probably ended up holding it a lot like that.
Yeah.
Because of that.
I think anytime you're painting, if you can take away trying to draw, the more painting like your finished work looks.
That's where I struggle with. I tend to it's
Draw.
frustrating. I tend to maybe over detail, I guess. Sometimes I have to consciously think about it, about not over detailing.
Well, I really think like when I think of you as an artist, I think of you as more of a as an illustrator. I shouldn't say more of an illustrator, but I think of you as an illustrator.
That's what Robin always told me.
Is a big part of your style, and that a lot of times if you take an illustration style and try to.
Maybe I should illustrate a book about
should.
a middle-aged woman who blows out her back vacuuming.
I'm gonna totally get the soundbite of Debbie Downer. I'm gonna like put it on like a quick fire button where we can actually even have the Rachel Dratch face come in. Just.
Hey, I just found one of my bells from my Christmas sweater.
Your
on the floor.
what? Oh, your
Bells?
bell. Okay.
There, yeah.
All right.
I think partway through that video, a bell fell off my sweater.
Oh, that's right. All right, so cool. We're in a good place right now. I like this is the way this is developing. And I think you can see, I mean, this is, I'm going to pull a Jenny trick here. Pull a Jenny trick out of my hat. I'm going to hold this up, and you can see, this is a messy mess. Like, there's nothing.
Wow. I'm just kidding.
No, it's true. Like, you look at it up close, and it's hard to, like, we have the advantage of when we're filming, we have a monitor that shows kind of more like, it shows what you guys are seeing. And we get this opportunity to, I almost could zoom in further. I wonder if I should. Yeah. I guess it's all right.
You're okay.
Well, we get this opportunity to be able to kind of step back just by looking at the monitor, and I can see it. Well, it looks like what I want. And at this point in progress of learning how to paint, I kind of trust it, don't you? Mm-hmm. Like you kind of trust what you look like, what you're looking at up close looks like what you think it looks like from a distance. But I think that's something that you guys should always take advantage of if you have the space, is to step back from, maybe hit pause for a second, step back, see what your painting looks like from, at least 6 feet away. I even think 8 feet's better, but 6 to 8 feet, you don't need to go to the neighbor's house. Mm-hmm. It's okay. You can stay in your own home. You can even stay in the room you're working in it. Mm-hmm. And kind of maybe even just squint a little bit and see if you're picking up the shapes and the tones that we've got going on in the finished painting, rather than getting too hyper-focused in on details and individual brush strokes and stuff like that, because that's all just part of painting. So let's move on to our next step. The next step we're going to work on is we're going to work on our next layer of being a little bit darker. And I'm going to keep using this medium-sized brush. Now I'm going to be a little bit easygoing with this up in my sky. I don't want to get too carried away. But this next mix is just blue and red.
How are you doing over there with your machismo mouse?
I could use a refill.
Okay.
Good stuff. So a little bit more blue than red. Basically, I just want to add enough red to this that it takes away that intensity of blue. And I'm going to, again, just kind of start at the top. And I'm not going to come down very far. It's kind of a weird thing, but clouds at the very top are kind of considered foreground elements. Because you're looking down a tunnel. And the reason I don't want to get too carried away is because if I come down too far, it starts battling with the middle. And I don't want to do that. It might get a... I want to let each of these elements have a chance to be their own thing. I'll just tilt that a little bit so you guys can see. So one of the things I just did, and you see this in the studio a lot, I bet, Jenny, too, is a right-handed painter, as we get going across, we have a tendency of curving down.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure we don't do that. So try to make sure that you...
Did you just mix blue and red?
Yeah, just blue and red. A little bit more blue than red.
Okay.
Just enough red to take that. The sapphire blue kind of has a little bit of a acidic quality to it. If you know what I mean? An intensity. An unnatural intensity.
Acidic quality. I've never heard that with paint. I've heard it with wine.
Yeah, well, it's a term I use where I'm trying to describe something that doesn't feel very natural.
Like acid green. I remember you went through a phase in college where you were like acid green on all your paintings, and I was like...
I don't remember that phase.
I do remember it.
All of my paintings are out in the garage. Prove it.
Are they?
Yeah, no, they're not.
Actually, we should do an art show of our college paintings.
Oh, you know what? So we're talking about, there's a new feature on YouTube where you can purchase a membership to our channel, and some of the we could maybe do some of those little videos for members.
Fun.
Like a lot of what people do is Q&As and ask me anything.
When I was 19 and learning and thought I knew everything.
Yeah. It's like, I love giving out all this information to the world for free, but it's also kind of nice to make a buck.
Yeah, I was thinking, I know that, like, you can do a Patreon, like we have a Patreon thing, and people who are Patreon members, you can do extra special things like little projects.
But we can do that kind of membership through YouTube now, too.
Yeah.
All right, so it's next step. Same basic concept. I'm going to use this darker color.
Same color?
Yep.
The reddy blue?
Yep.
Reddy blue?
Same color. And I'm just going to put a little bit across this middle ground. And what I want to do is I want to take this and I want to make it feel like, what is going on? Oh, you know what it is? This is the...
You have a personal problem?
This is the downside to having a mustache is, as I drink my beverage, it's getting in my mustache, and then when I talk, it goes...
Rum and Coke painting, everybody.
Hey now, you're not supposed to give away our trade secrets. Anyway, I'm just going to take my brush lightly after I've streaked some color through here. And I'm just going to kind of use it to swirl, and I'm just thinking of this as being shrubs in the background along the back side of this lake. And you can kind of do the same thing down below. Basically, all that I want to do is I want this to be really soft transition. I don't want a hard line. So by softening this up like this, it creates a barrier between our background and our foreground. Or middle, I'm calling this the middle ground in this painting. I guess this is foreground. It just creates a nice little separation. And it doesn't commit us to having to put trees all the way across. So there's that. So I got that going for me.
Mm-hmm. If you really want to take the time to put trees all the way across, you can.
Well, you could, but then you cut out these other trees that we just painted in the background. And we want to let them do their thing. All right, so what we're going to do next is keep using this same darker, just blue and red mix. We could add a little touch of yellow to this. Yeah, let's do that. So blue and red and the tiniest little touch of yellow. And you can see that brings us almost into a black tone. Almost.
Kind of brownish.
Yeah, it's kind of it's just, but the main thing is it's just a nice dark color. And I'm just going to start, I'm going to use a smaller brush to start this. I'm going to start creating, jeez.
What's happening?
Lots of water.
Spitting on your painting.
I know, I'm just like I'm a hydration foul nightmare right now. Told people we're drinking rum and coke, they probably think we're all totally sloshed. Not at all.
I don't think you'd be able to do a painting like this totally sloshed.
No. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using this darker color, and you can use your...
Are you making taller trees now?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just starting to say that.
Okay. Sorry. Didn't mean to jump the
maybe
gun.
one of us is sloshed.
No.
I do like using the medium-sized brush, but I do feel like we do need to have a little bit more control at times. I'm just keep mixing more color here. Here we go.
So maybe you should talk about how much paint you have on your brush.
So you want to have enough paint that the bristles... This is like the worst color to try to show.
Yeah.
That the bristles are coated, but they're not glopped. So if you get too much paint on your brush, it's like trying to swim in clothing. It just makes it makes it more difficult than it needs to be. How's that?
That's fair enough.
This could actually be a little bit darker. This is the time you could add a little touch of black if you wanted to, if you're having a tough time getting this dark enough to really show. I just added just the tiniest amount of black, and see how dark that got? That works good.
You know, if you add enough yellow, it turns green.
It's true, and I don't think that would...
You're wrong?
I don't think that would be a good thing on this painting.
Oh, oops.
As long as it's not too green. If you got a little hint of green, that's okay.
It's kind of a deep army green.
Yeah, that would be okay. Green and purple, depending on the combination, can work.
Depends on the tone.
Okay, so I'm just kind of roughing in our general outline here. I'm going to come in and put some more specific treetops in. So it's basically the same technique we used before. It's kind of the same heart rate monitor kind of vibe. It's just on a bigger scale using a bigger brush. So okay, Paul, let's make sure not all of your trees are leaning to the right. I like these to go taller as we get away from the center of the canvas, so when we get closer to the edge of the canvas. It kind of what that does is it funnels the eye back to the middle of the canvas. They call it like kind of an eye stopper. You've heard that term before.
Mm-hmm. I think I've heard you use it too.
Let me tilt that a little bit so you guys can see. So I got a little bit more chunky, and that's okay, because what we're going to do is once I get this roughed in, I'm going to come back with a smaller brush and add some detail. And every time I see detail, so our son is almost 21. He'll be 21 in, well, September.
Crazy.
He's got some time to go. But when he was about 6 or 7, the movie Cars came out. And there was the lowrider car that did paint jobs, and it was voiced by Cheech Marin, and we had this stuffed animal, or it's like a stuffed version of him, like a plush version of him, and you would throw him and he would say, "Time to detail."
Time to detail.
Yeah, I always think of that whenever I say detailing.
Hayden still has that.
He does. We loved that movie.
I remember we had to go on a mission and collect every single... Oh, this new one's coming out, I heard. So we'd go and...
Oh, that was fun.
Wait, oh, we heard it's at this store.
All right, so the other thing I'm going to do is just real lightly just kind of mimic down into the water what we just did above. And I'm just doing this it's okay for it to be very messy and smudgy by comparison. Because it's getting, the details are getting obscured by the water. Yeah. Get some of these on the other side too. This might be the messiest painting we've done on here.
Really?
It's got to be pretty close. Now, messy, when I say, is it fair to call it messy?
I don't really consider this messy.
Like, to me, like, most people would consider this messy, but to me, it's more impressionistic. Like, messy in painting is not a bad thing.
It's actually, if you over detail, it can be a very good thing. Hurts your brain a little bit at first.
You can.
But it's important.
Alright. Tilt that a little bit so you guys can see the messiness.
Ooh, messy.
Now, I feel like I've got a little bit, this side's a little bit
See-through?
transparent. Yeah. So that might be where I add just a little touch of black to my red and blue. Get a little bit more blue there.
It must have took all of your willpower to not add a mountain to this painting.
No. So that's something, you and I have talked about so for those of you who don't know, Jenny and I have been married for 24 years, and we've been painting together for...
That's why we can pick on each other so much.
27 years?
Painting together that long?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because freshman year of college when we met, you started coming to art
94.
classes.
Now I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, I forgot. I didn't know what you were moving towards.
Oh, I know what I was going towards. I think a lot of times when we do the sip and paint classes for Vine Go, we put too many elements into paintings often. Mm-hmm. I think so many of our paintings, and this one's really, the elements, all we really have is the sky, the water, and 2 rows of trees. And so when we talk about... Yeah. When we talk about, like, putting a mountain in, for example, sometimes that's too many elements.
Mm-hmm. What are you looking for? I can grab it.
I was looking for the one we did last month.
I'll grab it because you were talking earlier about how they go together.
Frozen Twilight.
Yeah, it's over here in the stack that you brought over here.
But so often we end up we get into a situation where when we're developing a painting, we're thinking about, a person is expecting to spend 2 hours with us in the studio. How do we get enough stuff in there to do a 2-hour painting so that people feel like they're really getting, bang for their buck? And we end up throwing in extra elements. And so where I'm going to put up the one we did last month, we do have some similar elements here. We've got the glow in the sky and the glow in the water. Same here. We have this background row of trees. Same here. We've got some clouds. Same here. But where we're changing this up is we're relying on the simplicity of this painting, which is not taking any less time. We're relying on the contrast of color and light and dark to make this painting exciting versus elements. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes, this foreground tree is something we kind of sneak into the sip and paint paintings as one extra thing to do that don't necessarily need to be there. Like, I thought this painting without that tree would be totally fine. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think it would have. Curious to see if it would have been a little left heavy.
Well, the mountain.
So you got the mountain there.
Yeah, the mountain kind of balances. So it's just one of those things. And then we're going to let this dry for a second. That's the only thing we're
You
doing.
want to show what we're doing next month?
Yeah, so next month we've got a couple.
February.
Yep, so here is, what did we decide to call this one? Rocky Cove.
Rocky Cove.
So this is we kind of came in, I felt like we had done a couple of fall paintings and then the mountain painting. This one's kind of a lake. We hadn't done a oceanscape, so we're going to do this little light.
In a while.
Yeah, we hadn't done one in a
I think
while.
your last one was Lavender Coast, which was...
No, we had the Serenity
Oh, Serenity
Moonlight.
Beach.
Yeah. So I came up with this one, which the elements that are the similar in this one, maybe just this glow right here, and the colors in the sky. But this one is definitely a shift into a different direction where we're not quite carrying elements
I
as
like
much.
the yellowy green light in the middle.
This?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was...
It looks like there was just a storm and it's clearing up.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly, that's what I was shooting for.
It makes me want to go there.
You know what would be really cool is when we do this one, we can add some birds.
Oh, yeah.
That's something we really haven't done in any of our paintings. And then Jenny's got this Monet-inspired.
I was thinking, like, February Valentine's pink, and I saw some Monet paintings and was like, I'm going to do a pinkish version of... Because his are very blue and purple.
You know what we should do? Let us know what you guys think about this. I'm going to throw this out there for everybody. Maybe what we should do is sometime when we're developing a painting, just do a overhead time lapse of the whole process. Every mistake,
Yeah,
everything that changes, and then maybe we'll do that as one of the videos that members can see.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a little behind the scenes kind of stuff. Okay.
That's a good idea.
Next step. I don't want to get too far away. Just kind of got distracted. We're going to use that same color we were just using. Just the red and blue.
And what brush are you using?
Medium-sized brush. A little bit of yellow if you want to tone it down. And we're just going to darken up this bottom inch or so. So when I say I'm going to darken up the bottom inch or so, basically what I'm doing is I'm going pretty heavy right across the bottom edge. When I say pretty heavy, what I mean is, my brush keeps sliding off the edge here. Not like thick paint necessarily, but thick enough that it covers and more coverage of area than thickness of paint on the brush. And you can kind of taper as we move away from the bottom of the canvas, do a little bit less, a little bit less. So on and so forth. You could probably go a little higher, kind of whittle away some of this. Like on mine, I feel like I've got a little bit too much of this light in the water, so I'm just going to take a little bit of this up a little higher. And I'm not filling, I'm leaving little spots, I'm leaving little gaps of our underpainting. Keeping the brush mostly going horizontal. And just gonna get a little bit more going. We're really getting pretty close to being done on this painting. Just got a couple more steps to do. Maybe we could add a bird on this one.
Put a bird on it.
Put a bird on it. We're in Portland. Why not? Well, we're not. We don't live in Portland, but we're not very far away. And for those of you wondering, Portland has not been burned to the ground.
No matter what any news channel tells you.
I spend a lot of time doing my other job in Portland. I've been into downtown Portland 4 times in the last week. I have not seen a burned down building.
No, there's some boarded up buildings, and most of them have these beautiful murals painted by local artists. But it's...
And most of that is built people
the
that
city
were...
is still Very beautiful Portland.
Just to explain that to somebody, to people though, a lot of that boarding up is because the businesses are already closed because of COVID, and they went ahead and just put boards up just because.
Yeah, I think that bank down the street from us did that.
Yeah.
At least I hope that's what it was.
Yeah.
And we drove up and parked there, and the windows are all boarded up, and like, oh great, what's happening out here?
Well, there was a hoodlum that came through and broke some windows at Starbucks, so.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Just Starbucks though.
No, they said there was a couple other businesses.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to mix up a little bit more of this dark blue color we've been using. I'm switching to a smaller brush. Dark blue. It's blue and red. And this is where we're going to detail, and I don't want to get too... Time to detail. I don't want to get too carried away into getting real intensely detailed on these branches, because they are far enough away that we're just seeing the basic idea.
So when you say branches, you're talking about like the tree boughs and...
Yeah, the branches on the trees.
Okay.
We weren't talking about the bank anymore. We moved on from that part, Jenny.
Shut up. I'm going to kick you under the table.
All right. And so I've got my smaller brush. And all I'm really going to do is just take it. I'm going to maybe add a little bit more to the top of my branch. And I'm just going to. What are you giggling about?
You're such a smart ass.
That's why that's why you married me. That's why you fell in love with me.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard your story. All right. Just kind of doing some horizontal...
Bank branches?
Yes. I mean, you really could even just do stripes, but they kind of start fairly horizontal and then just kind of flip up at the tip a little bit.
You know, I actually watched, there was something I wanted to mention earlier while you're working on these. I watched a documentary yesterday. A guy went to Japan, and he went to a Buddhist monastery there, and the monk had him sit down until the sun went down and copy calligraphy.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
And the reason he had him do that was to train the guy to keep his mind in the present. And I think that's applies to painting so much.
Gosh, so much so.
It reminded me actually of that movie that you like, the Spring Summer. Yeah,
Falls.
don't he has that guy do that, right? He has him the monk has him do
he has him carve it.
Yes.
Now so that movie's kind of weird because he has him carve all these characters into the wood of the deck, but then he has them painted in, but he has to use the tip of a cat's tail. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And the cat's like, Rawr! But
it was not a comedy. It's a serious movie. Isn't that what a Korean movie?
It's a Korean movie.
Yeah.
It is an amazing film if you're just needing to feel in the moment in life and realize that we can all get through anything, and it's called Spring, Summer, Fall, Winter, Spring. I highly recommend it. But only, I think it's one of those movies you watch by yourself.
Probably. Yeah, because it's
deep.
It's deep, and you really see like redemption of the main character who had a lot of problems.
Yeah. So these trees that we're doing, you can do as many as you want. You can do as few as you want. I do feel like it's easy to overdo it and do too many, but a good solid 5 or 6 on each side. And really, again, all I'm really doing, I almost wonder if I should, I think you guys can see it pretty well, is just creating some uneven, they need to taper. They need to have a top to the tree. They need to taper a bit. I call these, Jenny, I think you've maybe heard me call them this, 5 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by 5 to 7 is if I were thinking of, I'll grab a piece of paper. We have paper right here. If we're thinking about, let me just grab some paint here. Here's a clock face. And if this is 6, this is noon. This is 5, this is 7. Other way around. This is 7, this is 5, this is 7. I'm thinking about we're going from 12 to 7, 12 to 5. That's kind of the taper we want to go on.
You just drew the Star Trek
Yay,
symbol.
anarchy! I'm from Portland. No, but we kind of want to keep that taper. So often people go taper too far.
Oh my God, this turned. Before, like, isn't the Star Trek symbol? Is it a V?
No,
or
it's
is
at
it-
an angle. So, but we want to stick with this 5 to 7. And so if I were to hide my anarchy symbol, oh my gosh, we're having too much fun tonight. See what happens when it snows?
See what happens when there's rum involved?
Yeah. We didn't drink that much rum though.
No, not yet. The night is still young.
Yeah. So it's really this 5 to 7. You could even go 5:30 to 6:30. But I would never get any wider than 5 and 7. I just wouldn't. It gets too wide. And yes, there are times where trees are wider than that, but I think something I've thought about a lot in the last 9 years of teaching, almost 10 years of teaching. A lot of times what we do is not necessarily 100% what we would see in nature, but it's what looks a little bit more aesthetic than what we would see in nature. Don't you think that's a fair statement?
Yeah, we're just painting happy little trees.
Yeah.
So how much paint do you have on your brush?
Very little. Just enough paint to get it on the canvas. I think, a lot of times we see Bob Ross paint.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us have watched Bob 1.5 million times.
Every sick day at home.
Yeah.
In school.
And we see the way he loads his brush up with paint. And we try to do that ourselves. And it kind of works if you're using thick, heavy-bodied oil paints like Bob used, or even thick, heavy-bodied acrylics. I'm thinking of like some of the higher end, like Golden and some of the better Liquitex paints. But I'm not saying that the paint that we're using is not a high quality of paint. It's just a different viscosity or thickness. This is more of a thin body paint.
We use different brands for different colors because we get like, this is a great yellow from this brand, but their blue sucks. That sort of thing. So.
Yeah. So with our supplemental colors, we bounce around a bit, but what happens is the thinner body paint like we use, it reacts different on the canvas, it reacts different on the brush. So if you load a bunch of paint up on your brush like you see Bob Ross do, it's just not going to translate very well to this thinner body of paint. It's like trying to swim with a ski gear on or something like that. So what you see a lot of times when he adds his little bit of paint thinner or magic clear or whatever he calls it, he's using a thin fine brush and he's just letting it sit on top. Well, that's thinned down to kind of what we use on it all the time. So we don't want to have a ton of paint on the brush. Enough. Like I always say, try with a little bit, and if it doesn't show up, you're close. Then just add a little bit more and a little bit more until you get what you're looking for. Okay. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to reflect these trees down into the water, and then we'll pretty much be done.
I beat you to that.
Well, I know. Do you want a cookie?
Yes, actually I do want a cookie really bad. I'm hungry. We didn't eat dinner.
So when I reflect, I don't need to be nearly as perfectionistic. Because the water distorts everything. All I want to make sure is that they're kind of in line with our other trees. So if a tree goes a little taller into the sky, it's going to go a little further down into the water. I got a little bit, maybe a little bit too dark.
I almost washed this in my beverage. Whoops.
So we've been thinking about doing some painting challenges, videos. What would you guys like us to see us do?
Yeah, so we talked about, what were the suggestions that, remember I was talking to you the other day, what if we did this, what if we did that? It was like painting with our left hand.
Oh, painting upside down.
Painting upside down.
Not us upside down, but the canvas upside down.
Yeah, the canvas upside down, I'm trying to replicate. Painting with coffee as like a watercolor. That would be kind of fun.
Or wine.
Coffee, I think would maybe, well, I guess you could do one if you had a really heavy bodied cab.
Yeah, but then that's a waste.
It is totally a waste, but we wouldn't use a ton. I like the whole like left hand or upside down or
Totally drunk.
and it'd just be short video, like nothing long.
I think we're gonna start trying
Drunk
to
painting.
Yeah.
That's what we should do, like drunk history. Drunk painting.
We're gonna start trying to incorporate some shorter tutorial, like specific tutorials, like I kind of started doing the art of seeing type of stuff.
Well, and I love painting on mini canvases. So those little like 3x3 canvases that are like this big. Those are great, and you can do some really cool little projects on them. So I've been researching different sizes and different brands to see what would be a good one to send out. For a while I bought some to try out that were they were magnetic, and those were really neat. But then that particular manufacturer was bought out by another company, and I haven't been able to find the magnetic ones anywhere. Although I think you could take the self-adhesive strip magnets and put them on the back, and you could have little refrigerator magnets. They're really cute though. They're 3x3 square little magnetic canvas. I did a little Van Gogh Starry Night on one. It's kind of fun to paint really small. So that's something we might end up throwing in a bonus here and there in your little subscription box. I love doing that.
And I just ran back to the storeroom to show you guys what she's talking about. We've got these little canvases. These ones actually have magnets on the back. I don't know if we'll...
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's why I went back to get them. Because we were talking about little projects. So we might, maybe one of the boxes coming up, you might see a couple of these, and we'll do a short little...
One size I thought would be really good was a 2" by 4".
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, you could do some really long horizontal landscape.
Yeah.
Or vertical painting.
So one of the things I see in my painting that needs a little touch up, how are we looking on time?
We are at 7:48.
Wow, we cooked through this one.
Yeah, it doesn't have a huge amount of elements though.
No, that's true. I'm just mixing up a little bit more of my dark color here. And I just feel like if you've got a good reflection, go, just roll with it. If you want to add a little bit more, you can. If you want to add a little bit more. I felt like I was getting a little too light in here. This side over here is looking a little pathetic. So I'm just going to add some more dark into here. And one thing I'll point out too is if you guys, have any questions or anything, don't feel bashful about going to our website and using our chat box. It's just Jenny and I. So,
for now. Yeah, for now
it's just us. So, if you have a question, it's we don't have an employee anywhere that's, we don't have we haven't outsourced our tech support or questions and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, just pop in there, ask us a question, and usually one of us is able to get back to you pretty quickly.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention, I thought about this earlier. Through our Van Gogh studio, we're doing live Zoom classes. So that's when you're all on the screen and the person teaching is on the screen. Right now we have Annalise, who's amazing. She's been with us for 6-7 years. and she's an amazing painter.
Yep.
And she's doing the Zoom classes unless she's unavailable, then Paula or I will do it. And those are kind of fun because they're very interactive. We get to talk back and forth. And the paintings are different. They're ones that we run in the studio. So those you will find on vinegogh.com, which is VINEGOGH.com. And we ship the kits out to you, and the price of the class includes the shipping and all that. So that's something to look into if you want to try a live class where you're not on YouTube. you're on the screen, kind of privately with whoever else signed up too. And
the nice thing
cool.
is you can just if you have a question, you can turn your microphone on and actually ask a question.
I think I want to do paint your pet that way because Annalise is the bomb diggity with paint your pet. She will, and she sketches them all for everybody anyway. So
I got one thing. I got one thing left.
Are you a teenage boy going through puberty?
I'm Peter Brady. So one thing I want to do is I still feel like this is maybe a little too intensely light in the foreground. You softened yours up already. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
You're copying me.
Well, no, I'm copying the original. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a little tiny bit of yellow in there. I'm going to try to mix up this kind of lavender, maybe even a little, we want to kind of keep it. We don't want to get too much white because white does weird things. Have you noticed that?
Sometimes.
Like you try to get it, and you try to get it to help soften things up, and it doesn't. It just becomes white. So what I'm going to do is we're going to dry brush. You know what dry brushing is, but other people don't. It's basically I want to have almost no paint on my brush. I've kind of leaned a little bit towards the reddish side with this. And you can use your smaller brush. Your smaller brush would probably be better for this. Got too much paint on my brush. If you get too much on, it's okay. Just smudge it out a bit. But we can use just the smallest amount of paint. We can kind of create some ripples that kind of come in and around in here. And it's cool because even if you've got the lighter color, if you go across your darker trees, it just kind of works well. Yeah, I'm going to go back to my medium. Mostly I just want to I feel like this area is just a little overwhelming. And again, this is me. If you guys are happy with how yours looks, you don't have to do that. This is when we get into the finished details. This is where I go total cop out. Only make changes that you feel like you need to make. Because we're all going to see our own paintings differently. So
this painting, if you were to take a whole lot of extra time and do your Paul thing, really like work on it, it'd be cool to do some suggestions of rocks underwater through here.
Oh yeah. So that's something I've done. You know what? I should do a painting like that this spring coming up. There's something I do sometimes where, and we're basically done with this painting, by the way. If you want to do a bird, can I borrow your little tiny brush?
This one?
Oh, no, that's a flat
Here,
one.
I've got the jar in here. So
okay.
I'll see what I got. Here's a little one.
Small brush is what I got. All right. So one of the things that I'm a big bless you.
I'm allergic to small brushes.
Huge proponent of is never during birds black.
Yeah.
It just.
It's something that you learn just by seeing other paintings where the birds are like.
Yeah. So I'm just going to kind of go for this kind of warmish purple color and small.
What, you don't want a pterodactyl? I
No.
think a pterodactyl would look good there. That's how I could have wrecked the painting.
I like mountain scenes. So spending growing up in the mountains, and I didn't grow up in the mountains, but we got a question up there.
Oh. Oh yeah. Sometimes I think I need to walk away because I do one more thing and I feel like I ruin it. I had that happen the other day. Even painting 20-some years.
We have a friend of ours,
same thing.
Our friend Jamie Shepherd, and I remember she would always say, "I'm not going to do the bird at the end. I'm not going to do the bird at the end. I'm not going to do the bird at the end because I always ruin it when I do the bird." And she would always do the bird at the end and then feel like she ruined it.
Yeah, and do you remember, I think it was the water lily one I was working on, and I hollered to you across the room, I need to just stop touching it.
Yeah.
It might have been that one.
So what I was going to say is I spent a lot of time
in the
mountains as a kid, and fishing and at lakes and things like that. And
he even saw Bigfoot once, and that is a story for another time.
That might be a story for the members only page. But one of the things that you'll see when you're in the mountains in Oregon, where we've got nice big tall mountains, is you don't really see flocks of birds. You see, when you're looking out over a lake, you're seeing a pair of osprey, or a pair of hawks, or a pair of eagles, or a lone bird. So my philosophy when you're doing like this type of a scene, 2.
Yeah.
1 or 2, no more.
Or 3.
You could do 3, but no more than 3.
Yeah.
Absolutely no more than 3. Because you could have
unless you're doing like a V of geese.
Will you roll with me for a change? No, because what happens is it takes away from the painting if you do
My grandmother did this awesome painting of Canadian honkers.
Holy cow.
I should show it to you because it's got like 10 of them.
Okay, there I got my 2 birds.
Oh, it's Valentine's painting.
Yeah.
No.
So what I'm used to seeing, yes, one of my, our Deschutes sunset painting was inspired by when I was fishing on the Deschutes River.
Which one?
The Deschutes
Yeah.
sunset.
Okay.
And a whole V of geese flew right over my head.
Well, I just glanced at the original, and yes, your light spot was so small on that one, but I kind of like it large.
Yeah.
Let's bring it down.
Okay. Yeah. So at this point,
we need to sign
we're done. So the only thing we have left to do is sign it
with your little brush and whatever color you want.
Yeah. On these, I tend to stick with white for signing personally, but that's me.
Why would you use white when you could mix so many different
Bob Ross always used to use red.
Did he?
Yep. So Jenny and I both use kind of like a symbol that we each created for our initials, but I don't think we missed anything. We got everything on there?
I think so.
Yeah, so let's get this out of the way. And what were you saying about the original?
Yeah, so your bright spot on the new one is a lot bigger, but I actually like it. I like the bright spot bigger. Actually, quite a bit more because you've got all this yellow, which is really pretty. And this one I thought was really pretty, but this one takes it to a whole different... It really makes these stand out a lot more.
Yeah. I do like this light spot a little bit better with it not being quite as big, but either way works fine. So let's look at Jenny's.
I actually like this one that I did.
Yeah, you did really well with this one. Yeah, that's good. That's one of the most impressionistic paintings I've ever seen you do.
Yeah, I worked really hard up here to not over detail the clouds, so I kept them like uncomfortably loose. Yeah.
All right, so that's it. That's all we got.
That's it. Thanks for joining.
Let's switch our video
this
over.
One?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
There we are. Hey, thanks for painting with us.
Yes, on our Portland snow day, which lasted all of about 3 hours.
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty much gone. But again, we've got some fun paintings coming up. I know I've already got, in my mind, at least 2 more paintings beyond the lighthouse painting.
Okay.
I'm gonna go out on a limb in February. No, March. I'm gonna go out on a limb in March.
What does that mean?
I'm gonna go for a different twist.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've thought of some animals and, like I said, some cool, like, moth or bee. I have a cute bumblebee painting I do that's...
The bumblebee painting is cute.
It's cute, but it's not like cutesy. So it's one that like looks like, yeah, I'd love to hang that on my wall. It's not like tacky cutesy.
It looks like you have it hanging
upstairs
in our upstairs, and it would be a perfect painting to hang in a kitchen or something like that, someplace where, like, I think,
yeah,
like it's just a nice anyway. So thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
We're going to be shipping out next month's the first week of the month, and so you should all be getting them. And I think what did we figure out for the dates?
Friday, February 12th, and Friday, February 19th. Those will be our live stream dates. And then the next month we might actually just post the videos not live streamed, just based on people's feedback on the survey. Most people were saying it doesn't matter if we do a recorded one or a live one.
Most of the people replied that they do the video when it's
at their own time,
when it's convenient for them. So I think what we're talking about doing is potentially doing the pre-doing the video, so that they're basically, when you get the box, they'll be ready.
So you can do it anytime.
You can do it whenever. But then we'll still do a live stream or two during the month where we're maybe talking about
where we're doing these little guys, something.
Or maybe we'll spend a half an hour working just on how to do fir trees or clouds or owl feathers
or bugs. Or animals.
How to control yourself when the Posca marker's not working.
Paint your pet.
Yeah. So I'm thinking what we're probably going to end up doing is one of the things people asked about was a little bit more specific instruction on elements. And so
how
that's
much paint to put on the brush.
Just little things like technical elements and probably what we'll do is we'll start doing more live streams about that. Maybe we'll do some live streams where we talk about artists and their impact on the world, things like that.
That would be cool. Like that.
Just kind of some different stuff. But we'll, still have the videos fully laid out, but more convenient for you. And then if you've got time that you want to chill out for a half an hour.
No!
Okay, so now this is a great learning time.
What happened here?
How do we deal with this?
Okay, so this happens to people who come in the studio, and I feel terrible. They're like, I just bought this new sweater. So what I will do is I'll take this off, obviously, and run in the bathroom, and I run water over this with some soap, and it'll wash out. And then I'll throw it in the washing machine.
Yep.
If it's wet and you catch it, you can take care of it right away.
Yep.
If this dried, it would be a pain, and I probably would...
but you could still do it.
Yeah, with rubbing alcohol and a toothbrush, you can... Or hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer works better because it doesn't evaporate as fast.
I'm going to go clean this up.
Go for it.
So, I had a great time tonight. I loved this painting. I liked loosening up a little bit.
Good. You loosened up so much you dropped your arm in the paint.
Exactly. So if you're just stumbling across us, try out our subscription box if you want. You can cancel anytime. 2 projects a month, $35 a month. We ship it right to you. Includes the shipping. GoBox.com. And then we also have lots of supplemental individual kits that start at about $25. And those are fun holiday theme projects.
You want to clean that sweater. Let's wrap it up.
Okay.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Jenny, click that that red button on your way. No, not that one on the computer.
Okay.
See you guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you. See ya.
Bye. Quick end. The red.